to our What If Civilization Restarted series. And well, today's video is gonna be with expansion and partition. And well, the first nation to do anything is the Orange Nation, and their few allies are micronations basically. And they start their invasion into the pink. No, this is pink purple. This is light purple, really light purple. As they move in with the goal of getting to the coast. And they manage to. And well, the Purple Nation in Iberia decides to start an offensive too. Which is to go all the way to the mountains. And then this nation decides to occupy the islands. And move up over here. While the Brown Nation decides to do some expansion. With this nation about to lose its capital, which is located about here. It's not the same area as the country that appears to be like. As they approach the capital, they start their encirclement, which they manage to do to siege the city before most nations really had a chance to do anything with these territories. And well, now for the peace treaty. The Purple Nation, light purple nation, and a bit of, well, nations they created to be with all of these nations. Well, this nation moved up to the mountains, except in some areas, and this nation and that nation expanded a bit. And the Brown Nation decides to expand into there. They want to create an empire, but they don't want to go north, because that will make the Orange Country come after them. And the Orange Country is not a nation they want to mess with. But a few nations decide to meet for a potential invasion of this, but it doesn't really go as well as anyone hoped, so nothing does happen. Well, this nation happily continues expanding for a bit. And then they expand into here. These nations are starting to rise in tensions, but not enough to cause any more problems. Well, they decide to take over this nation. As that darkish gray-green nation does not really like it. And while they have an expansionist party win. And their color goes to this color as they become pro-expansion. And a few nations sharing this goal, including the yellow, with the Yellow Nation knowing of these nations, so they meet. And those two nations, and they talk about a partition of this green monster nation, and everyone agrees to go ahead. With the plan being for the Yellow Nation to start, moving forces of the Green Nation to the north. Well, goes pretty well. With these two nations in the southern end of this empire deciding to move and make advances. With this nation making a move to cut off the two halves of the empire, but not really, because it's not landlocked. And well, that's what the front line becomes looking like. With the Red Nation launching its offensive, with the goal of spreading its empireness. And this Brown Nation starts its expansion. With it being herd expansion, but their goal is to expand down to the mountains. And by mountains, I mean the Caucasian mountains. And well, they start moving in and they kick them out of this area. With them occupying this. Eventually, they're forced to retreat. And yellow forces start moving in. And well, the Green Empire is not having a great time. with yellow forces helping the brown and red nations to make as much expansion as they can, with them crossing into Anatolia, and with them finally kicked back really significantly. And well, then the islands start getting captured. And well, a landing by the yellow country takes place over here. And well, then the blue nation continues its offensive. Well, it's starting to meet the mountains, so it starts moving like this. Around the Caucasian mountains, basically. And well, with these forces going down the coast and eventually meeting up with those forces, with them launching an offensive there to cut these two parts off. The Green Nation isn't having much fun, with them at this point being forced into surrender. So let's see how the surrender does for them. So let's see the peace treaty. Anatolia, but then they make a few puppets like in Greek area, but it's not Greece. It's other nations. I don't know what they are in this timeline. Not Red Nation, although they forgot to annex their islands that they annexed. Yeah, not very great. Now, where can we see expansion? With the Blue Nation deciding to expand. Wonder how it will go when they start getting taken over. And now the nations, I decide, yeah, they'll be small, are now gigantic again. Oops. And well, just wait for like episode 20. With them deciding to do another war, this Green Nation, even deeper in Iberia. And well, this Iberian nation decides to go on quite a bit of expansion, expanding into all of its neighbors, to be strong enough to hold back. Because it's the strongest there, but it needs to be able to hold back all of this area. With this nation deciding that, this nation deciding to sell this land to the Green Nation. Well, the Green Nation expands into here. Well, they expand into there then. How'd I use the same color twice? I mean, they did pretty good for the expansion. Well, with this nation, the Yellow Nation deciding to expand into this Pink Nation. With the Yellow Nation being the strongest nation. Well, they're the only nation that really knows about this area. Yeah. Well, the big Golden Empire decides, yeah, maybe they should make some puppets, is what they decide to go ahead with. Because I feel this territory is too big for direct rule. So they decide to create some puppets. With them having all this as a part of them. And while this nation decides to avoid seeing that nation get stronger and decides to expand up here. Well, that was a good idea. With the Brown Nation expanding into nations that aren't a part of that Orange Nation. So they go after this Gray Nation. So this Gray Nation fell. And then they decide to expand into here. Before a unification happens, deeming that these nations are better off together. So these three nations unify. Now the Brown Nation doesn't want to expand there. Orange Nation's purposely keeping the look of weakness, but really being strong. Well, with the Pink Nation going on more expansion, it's basically an expansionist group in charge at this point. Hearing about this nation's weakness, this Green Nation decides to go on the offensive. with a peace treaty offered fast, and they decide to take it because they fear that this nation might become strong again or might mobilize. So they just take this land and go. And them not being the most popular of nations, this nation entering a war with the Yellow Nation, with the Yellow Nation suffering strategic defeats with big encirclements, they decide to give up and hand this Brown Nation a bit of land, which looks like this. And while this nation decides to annex it, they're making the alliance with they're aligned with the Orange Nation, which is good for them. And well, no one really noticed that or tried to do anything based on it. With the Red Nation still expanding into an empire, part after part after part of the series, they're still expanding. And well, I think by part 25, or part 20, depending on where this part is, if this part's part 19, well, maybe there might be some decisions to head towards there, and it'll be part 20 where they go there. But if it's part 20 and I didn't realize, well, it'll be part, 25 or part 21, they go over there and try to expand and take over. Because they've expanded in their areas. Well, now for the not peace treaty. That's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not really subscribed. Bye, guys.